right, so being just a tad past 1:30, we'll call this meeting to order, and I would ask we do roll call. How about Drew? We start on your end.
I'm Drew. City Councilor Tuesday. Andrew Brainerd, Director of First Homeless Response.
Nicole Rutherford, City of Coos Bay.
Sean Sweet, Coos County.
So we got. Oh, that's right.
Okay, we are just doing a roll call. So David, did you want to share? You're here and your role.
I certainly will. Sorry to have to do it this way, you all. I wanted to be in person, but I'm having some back issues, so I'm participating from a prone position. Anyway, David Geels with Coos County and a member of the Homeless Response Board here.
Thank you. And then we've got a couple of folks online. Carly, do you want to?
Hi, I'm Carly Toby. I'm the housing navigator for APD.
Thank you.
Hey, Curly.
And Tracy. Well, it appears it's Tracy Pierce from Northwest Natural. And then we've got a couple people in the audience today. So thank you guys for coming and joining us. It's nice to have some seats filled out there. So the first thing on our agenda is public comments. So if anybody has anything they wanted to speak to, we've kind of landed on a 3-minute timeline. There's not probably any of us ready and prepared to time, but that's what we're doing, and we'll do our best to watch that.
I was curious, will illegal aliens be able to use this system? I mean, will IDs, you making sure they're Americans or, because I know they're busing busloads of, and just dumping them on the streets, they just left a bunch in California.
Yeah.
If they make it up here much, but
Yeah.
I don't know if the state's put anything around that or not.
There isn't any language like that so far in any of the funding sources that we've received. Much of what we do here is kind of trying to coordinate, and so it's going to kind of land on what our partners in that efforts, what their rules and regulations are.
Or how the Deborah Center processes its clients, the Orca processes. We're the organizational side to try to coalesce everybody, but we're not giving direct funding to anybody that is
We
an
haven't
individual
yet.
recipient.
Yeah, we have not yet.
Yeah.
And I don't imagine individual funding would be it. We'd be funding a program or a service provider. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, any of the organizations that are, providing these types of services in the community. Yeah.
State, I suppose, Orca. There's a mess of them.
Yeah, Gospel Mission.
Yep, all of their own requirements through the state. Yep.
Operation Rebuild. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Of course, that'd be a veteran, so.
Yeah, one would imagine that one.
Not always though.
Pretty straightforward, but.
For the most part, if they're veterans, they serve in the US military, they do try to get them their citizenship for serving. But they typically don't reside back into the US. I had served with a guy from Guam and was in the Marine Corps with us over in Japan, and when his time ran out, he went back to Guam with his family, so.
I knew 1 or 2 guys in the Navy that never got their citizenship.
Oh, I thought that was the main reason why they did that program.
Always.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them will serve the military because they're being supported as an outerlier, like Providence or something that the US supports, and so they do offer enlistment into those other areas.
I knew an E5 that still didn't have a citizenship, but I've taken us off the rails. I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's all good conversation, so. Looks like we have a new person who's attending online. Boyce, do you want to share? We are in public comments right now.
Good day. Just listening in and learning what I can. I'm on a serious learning curve here. So, and I see Commissioner Sweet in the background.
You're going to say, oh, heaven help us.
It's definitely going to be educational. Hi, Drew.
Is that voice?
Well, thank you for joining us. We're happy to have folks on the other side of this conversation listening. So, yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I guess no other comments, so we'll move to the next item, which is just speaking a little bit about some updates in various areas. A couple of these, David Milliron from North Bend's kind of been leading these, so I'll do my best to fill in some gaps here. But the first item is under the balance of state funding, and as far as I am aware, that is still pending at the state. We submitted some questions that we wanted to have clarification on, and I think there's a couple they're still mulling around a little bit with. So though we know we've been awarded some dollars, those there's still some questions there for the state to put together the actual agreements. So I don't know, Andrew, if you wanted to speak to staffing.
Yes, so currently, right now, I have just talked with Counselor Farmer and Commissioner Sweet, and we have some applications that we're taking a look at, and we're gonna start doing interviews on Monday afternoon. That's the best time for Commissioner Sweet and Counselor Farmer. And so I'm gonna be making phone calls today, since I had a confirmation today that they would be able to participate and help out that. So hopefully by the next meeting here, we'll have a new project manager and administrative assistant.
Great. Thank you for those who are gonna participate in the interviews. That's helpful to help move that along. I see that Stephanie Kilmer has jumped on. Did you wanna share your role with us?
Sure, it's Stephanie Kilmer, and I am a Coos Bay City Councilor, and I am the alternate. So I just try to sit in and make sure I'm aware of what's going on.
All right, thank you. The next item is an update on the legislative report. So as we currently understand it, each of these pilots have a responsibility to submit reports to the state of Oregon that kind of gives them an update on our progress. The next reporting milestone is coming up in November, and LOC representatives have offered to help coordinate that with all of the pilots, bringing together a kind of comprehensive report from the perspective of all pilots. So we actually need to get that to the representative from LOC by the 16th. I know Andrew did a preliminary draft, and I think it's sitting with the executive board for review. The goal is to get that over to LOC by Monday, so we'll hopefully get through that this week and get it off and over to them so they can put it together for presentation to the legislature in the first part of November. So I think that's it there. There isn't, I don't believe, in this milestone any financial reporting. I think it's just strategic plan update to the state. So I'll move to the next item, which is the funding request. We had at our last executive board meeting a funding request by a local service provider for potentially adding some shelters on their site. It is currently a provider that does not have shelters on their site, and they are also looking at, so this would be transitional housing, and they're looking at also potentially in the future some maybe longer term housing opportunity there. If it's of interest to this larger body, we can certainly have them come back to present their ask. And then from that, we could decide if that's something that we want to help support financially.
Do they currently do things like this?
They do not currently in our community. However, they do that in other communities very successfully. They have longstanding history. So
I apologize, I didn't catch which group this is.
the Salvation Army.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they do a ton of this. just not.
Yeah, just not here yet. So, but they're ready and very willing, specifically to cover that area of families that are, maybe not being served, either at Operation Rebuild Hope. Obviously, maybe that is not the best commingling at Devereaux. And then, I don't know, missions capacity to handle a family
The
necessarily.
mission, well, historically, they wouldn't, I mean, they would take a family, but they didn't let spouses cohabitate.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
So they didn't get many families that wanted to stay there.
yeah. So I think this is a place we need to fill this gap.
Yeah.
He would definitely be interested in coming back and speaking to us, as the full body that would make that funding decision. So,
I've never been a little bit, it's pretty impressive.
yeah, definitely high energy and very focused and, yeah.
This is really good.
Yeah, this is the work they've done at other places, so it makes good sense, but
Madam Chair, would you like me to contact him and maybe we can request to see if he can be here for the next month's meeting to do a presentation?
sure. I did have the feel from our executive board that we were interested in funding, so.
You might also look at what St. Vincent has done in Eugene and see if his plan is similar to theirs. They developed such an extensive tiny home support system that they also built their own factory to produce more tiny homes because their growth pattern accelerated to such a degree. So that could be a chief thing, hell of a thing.
Would there be any reason we need to wait a month?
No, I mean, if you guys are interested in, he could, put together a formal proposal, which I think he already has.
If he can do it, I think we should. It seems like, the months kind of slip away on.
Yeah, for sure.
All of a sudden.
So the
Figure
next thing would be, if you guys are interested in that, we could definitely share that with all of you. I think as far as costs wise, whatever we're willing to contribute, they can use for sure. He's looking, I think, support for the shelter side of it, the purchasing of the shelters.
Do they have a plan where the homes are gonna go?
Yeah, I think they're working on that right now as far as infrastructure, like with city planning and
Okay.
land use to kind of see on their lot where that could work. Yeah.
They own several acres behind their building.
Behind where they're at?
Yeah.
But
Nicole,
they've got, yes.
did he have a proposal for how many he was looking at?
So for shelters, 8. And, right off the bat, the balance of state funding, that would, check off some of those boxes right off the bat. And also indicated that they had capacity to get them online in the timeframe for the balance of state funding. So though we don't have those dollars yet, working on already getting them spent. So.
Okay, and
you're-
then a follow-up question to that, is that a supervised facility? Is it inside the fencing? Did he?
So
indicate that?
my understanding is they do have 24/7 staffing there. And again, it would be family focused, so it would be, moms, dads, kids kind of thing there. They are like dual like cottages, so they have a shared kind of kitchen space, I think, or is it bathroom space? I can't remember.
It's bathrooms, may I speak a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah.
Okay, so it would be 8 family homes that would be inside the property fenced in. It's not outside the property. These homes are similar models to the ones they have at Bayside Landing. Those are little cabins that they have currently. It's almost the exact same model with a bathroom, a kitchen, a little living room, and some bedroom space. It's very neat looking, so.
So
he's
it's
already
it's a quite a bit different than from like a pallet home or something.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
So these would be like transitional spaces. They're not, they can be a little bit longer. There is gonna be more of a, the fact that there's bathrooms and kitchens in there, it's a full, full cycle living kind of arrangement.
Well, it's just the sustainability with that kind of a home lasts longer than a pallet home, because their shelf life is 10 years,
Yeah,
so.
and he's already spoke with a local contractor, so he's got somebody already lined up and, you know, so they're ready to kind of move forward on it. They're just looking at a funding sources, so.
What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? Well,
Seriously,
yeah,
while we're here together, we want to see if we can.
yeah, we can certainly call another meeting for sure.
Let's try to figure it out now rather than have to do an email. Lucy's good for me.
Once David's rolling, he rolls. So
Yeah.
As quick as we do it, he'll do it. So I'm up.
Okay,
Or Wednesday works. It works for me at least. I think I don't trust you.
yeah, I think we can make that work. Do you want to do Wednesday again at this time? Because we're already meeting in the executive board, so we've already kind of got that reserved.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll make it happen.
Okay, and we'll just have that one thing on the agenda.
So is this an executive meeting or are we gonna call this?
I think we want to have the full board here to
So
make
full
that.
board
Yeah.
meeting, and I will send that information out to the county to notify the time and location for that.
And then you can ask maybe if Major Kaufman could be here.
Yep, I'll make sure that is taken
Yeah.
care of.
So on that board meeting stuff, you said you will get it out there, like we could attend and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, I just want to clarify that I'll allow the county to know what's going on and they'll send out the press release on that.
Okay.
Could you better identify the site so people could take a look at it between now and then? You might be interested.
Yeah, so it's just the Salvation Army location out in Empire. I don't know their address, what's their,
The same spot out.
yeah, they've got
Yeah.
a bunch of property.
Yeah.
And then the woods running out back from them, that also belongs to them.
Okay.
I think the family thing is, I like it. I like the idea of that because I don't like it, you know, you try and separate the family, so I don't like that part of it. The whole family thing, I thought I liked that part.
Yeah, and
Yes.
the folks that are here locally now have just come from, I think, Spokane and did this kind of work up there very successfully. So,
Okay.
yeah, very excited that they're here in our community now.
And he's been to other states as well where he's done this very, very successfully.
Mhm.
So he's done a pretty good job where he's went to try to help with the homeless issues in those areas.
Yeah,
This is
Yeah.
the property off of, at the end of Flanagan, on the south end of Flanagan, correct?
yes,
Yep.
thank you. I knew somebody would know the street.
Nicole, I don't know if it would be helpful, but I mean, I just that we're on sort of on the same page. I mean, you know, the funding that we've got committed from the state, or at least somewhat committed, isn't nearly sufficient to cover all of our objectives. So trying to figure out the best use of the funds that we have available, how to leverage them the best to get the most access to services, within also having to meet the state guidelines. It really is a balance that we're going to have to do to try to meet all of those things.
Yes, agreed, especially this new, the balance of state funding, it has numbers attached to that. There has to be the correct amount of shelters added to our community and the correct number of individuals rehoused. So, and there's timelines associated to the length that they need to be, transitioned into those homes. So we're working on longer term solutions essentially with that balance of state funding. So this definitely would meet some of those goals.
So yeah, I will get a hold of Major and I will set the time and location and get the information out to the county as well.
Okay,
May
all
I?
right, great. Yes.
Hope my audio is okay. Hi, Court here. I'm having a little trouble hearing. Is this, you mentioned the governor, is this related to a specific bill, the funding you're talking about?
5019.
Yeah, so there was obviously the executive order 2302, which selected
Metro areas.
Yeah, metro area counties, and then there was a 5019 balance of state funding that came back in and captured the rest of the state for funding. There's a $26 million price tag on that, which was
job.
then divided up. Yeah.
Okay, that's House Bill 2001. And the amount that came back to Coos County is 1.9 million. If we're talking
So,
the same, I can read that to you.
yeah, so that
Yep.
is the 1.9 is what was allocated to Coos County. We just haven't, there's details we're still working out with the state, so we don't have any agreements or anything hasn't been formalized just yet, but that is the announcement from the governor's office that we were allocated 1.9.
And that is related, and I think you just referenced it, but I didn't quite hear, so forgive me if I'm creating some confusion here, but at the end of 2022, she just went to the 10 biggest counties and overlooked the other. Yes, so I see a nod, and so we're on the same page here. And
Yep.
so we battled for, whether it's good expenditure of taxpayers' money, that's another question. But if we hadn't, exerted a little bit of interest and enthusiasm and insistence, then it would have went to some other areas. So that's all I needed to know. So I'm glad you're up on this. Let me know if I can help in any other way. We're just happy about this. And all three counties did fairly well. In fact, Coos County got $500,000 more than Douglas County. So we're having a little fun rubbing that in.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be anything left over down in Curry County that we could get our hands on?
You know what? I love that you're always looking out for Curry County, Commissioner.
I want to make sure their money is used wisely.
Let's see, they got 594,000, I think. So proportionally, it's, we're very happy. And I think Douglas County is happy too. So good work, everyone.
Yeah, we're definitely happy. I mean, we were a little bit discouraged to begin with, just
Oh,
because,
yeah.
our ask was a little over $8 million once we worked with all our partners to identify the needs. And so 1.9, though it's great, it doesn't get us to where we were hoping to go, but we'll keep working at it for sure.
Well, I was threatening to speak against the 2001 on the House floor, and but the governor, in working with her on that, it was good, and it got the right attention from not just all the rural counties, were most of them anyway, were involved in that. So yeah, stay tuned, and again, let me know how I might be able to help down the road.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much.
It is kind of hard to figure out. I mean, some of the money came in terms of being focused on sort of operational money, and other money came in the bucket around capital projects. It does sound like they will allow us some movement back and forth as long as we meet the overall numeric numbers that they expect from us as well. So it's a little bit complicated to figure out how to make that happen.
Yes. I mean, we are happy that there is some flexibility there beyond what they initially earmarked for capital and operations. It's gonna be a challenge to meet the goals of the shelters and rehousing. So, but we've got great community partners. So I think if we put our heads together, we can get it figured out.
Hopefully the commissioners can have some say there too. So I know they're overworked, seriously, but they're elected by the people in our counties, in our regions, so they've got some say. And if you run into some interference, then we can all back you up. That's the point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we could move to the next item. That's the director's report.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here today, and those in person and online. I just want to talk about a few things that have been going on currently. As you had heard, that which I had in my report, Commissioner Sweet and Councilor Farmer and myself are going to be doing interviews Monday afternoon. We have a list of people that have interest of applying for the project manager and the administrative assistant positions. And so we'll be doing that. Our community resource groups have been going very successful lately, even more. The faith-based, The denominational churches, there's about 5 of them that are going to be submitting me a summary of what they do for their work and how we can continue the work with the faith base regarding different programs, what's going on, and finding out information that we can provide from their side of things and to also our community. Also, Thursdays, I also meet with the advisory panels of the different health providers. We are currently looking at a system to keep track of beds that are filled, beds that are empty, and where they are housed, to keep everybody focused and also help out with our community resource officers so they're able to pinpoint different ideas. And then also we have the veterans and the tribal organizations that work with us currently as well. And actually, one of the gentlemen that's actually in the room today, I'm gonna put him on the spot a little bit. He's actually came up with an idea of looking at different programs. So Kyle, would you like to have the floor for a second and talk about what we're currently doing?
Sure. So I'm Kyle Brown. I'm the executive director now for Operation Rebuild Hope. So what we've worked on is similar to almost like a fire team oriented kind of system, to where each what's their Coleman's title? Is it CSO?
Community resource officer.
Okay, CRO. So the CROs for Coos Bay and the CRO for North Bend, essentially what it'll be is, because North Bend goes out, their CRO patrols the area, tries to build relationships with a lot of the homeless that are out here and trying to see what they can do to help. And then same thing with Officer Coleman over in the Coos Bay sector. So what I've created is a fire team that falls underneath them. What it is it's a set of 4 peer supports that will fall underneath Officer Coleman, and then another 4 that will fall underneath Officer White. One of them will be a veteran liaison, and then the other ones will just be liaisons that can kind of help reference different resources and organizations around the community. But what it does is the program allows them to go out as a team and go reach these camps, reach certain individuals, and it has a contact log established in it. And within that log, they're going to write the individual's name, a location of where they're at, because there's not a lot of them have just an address, but a location of where they are to give kind of a general idea if somebody else has to pick it up to go and check. But a location, and then what exactly their needs are, and whether they're a civilian or they're a veteran, because in the communities, those are 2 completely different spectrums. They're not going to have veterans necessarily getting civilian resources, although they could, but they won't allow civilians typically to get veteran resources. So what it is they will be able to, on that log, their contact log, and then right above it, it has 4 sections. So it's got, I believe it's housing, medical, dental, and I can't remember what the 4th one is off the top of my head. But it has the top organizations, the top 4 organizations, what exactly they provide and how to get there. So that way they can provide that information to some of the individuals as they find them, or when they come back to pick them up to check and see if they have received their resources yet, or if there's anything farther that they need, and try to reestablish that connection with them. But ultimately it's really to build a relationship. It's taking individuals, 5 individuals specifically from one county or from one town and the other, and making them a team and trying to combat a lot of the homeless camps that are around here and push them into the direction of resources, and kind of help get them back on their feet, get them more present in their own recovery. Whereas a lot of them right now, as you walk around and you talk with them, especially the ones that are more so pushed out into the camps, out in the trees and stuff like that, a lot of them don't know where to go, where to turn. There's not really a lot of resources as far as like literature that's handed out. We can say, hey, go to the Devereaux Center, but if they're over there on Libby and the Devereaux Center is way over here, chances are they're probably not walking there. So it allows the opportunity for the team to be able to take those individuals and bring them to the resources. And that team, each peer support will have a couple individuals on it that they're going to keep up with, that they're going to check on to make sure they are in fact being taken care of. Because one of the biggest issues that we have faced is prior to this, it was just a, hey, I've found this individual, this is what they need, I'm just gonna tell them, hey, this is where you should go for that, and then leave. And so a lot of them don't wanna come back off the street because they don't think they're really gonna be helped. They've seen the person one time and then never see them again. So that's more of the idea, is a continuation of planting that seed the first time, and then as you come back and you talk with them and you just have a general conversation, how they're doing, what they need, you're kind of watering it. And it's convincing them and giving them that moral support and understanding that, hey, somebody cares about me, I can do it. They're consistently coming back. They must want to see me be successful. There's not really a whole lot in it for the individual that's trying to help the homeless. It's not like it's a big glory thing. They're getting paid a lot of money. It's an authentic, humble feeling of somebody really is trying to help me. And that could have been the one individual or the one hand they finally needed to convince them that, hey, today's the day to get your life back on track, and let's help you become a member of society again. And so that's the intent of the program. And just a kind of a very rough graph on how it's broken down. It'll continue to be fine-tuned as we figure out the exact resources or the best resources or the best way to go about it. But overall general consensus, that's how it's set up.
Thank you, God.
Very nice.
So it's way more about like a follow through, you follow
Yeah.
up all the time, so if you're following up with these people, then yeah, it will give them hope to.
We're doing that in Eugene,
Yeah,
the same.
so correct, that's what it is. So it's holds people accountable to not only follow up, but allows the individual to feel like they truly are finally being served and that somebody wants to see them be successful, which we do. We want to see them get off the street. Some of these people have the most amazing stories I've ever heard. An individual that I had used to be best friends with Elvis. He's got pictures with him. He used to celebrate birthdays with him. He's got notes from him when he was on tour, missed his birthday, wrote him a letter and sent it to him and apologized. So like stuff like that, I was blown away, like, holy cow. And you're all the way here in Coos County. I'd have never thought that.
Yeah.
So but like some of the situations are really circumstantial for why some of these individuals ended up on the street. And once you're there, it's hard to get back into it because you're applying for a job and they see, oh, they're not clean, they haven't showered. We're not gonna go that route, especially with a lot of food places. And those are the ones really looking for the more hires because they need more help. So it's an opportunity to cover all the aspects for them.
I think the other thing that's kind of nice about it is there is kind of that documentation piece that we don't necessarily
Yeah.
have with a lot of the folks that are out on the ground working
Yeah.
with them. And so that will help get a data set for everyone to be working from, and we'll know when they're touching, individuals out there and what kind of resources they've been connected to. And
Yeah. And it does that really, really, or is set up to do that really well. And it's, as somebody comes across them, they can write their name and their information down, and as they cross-check it, really at the end of the week or the end of the day, however they're gonna go about planning that, they can go, oh, hey, I saw this individual too, they still need this, okay, let's make sure we go back out there and double check and see exactly how we can get them to it, if it's something that they have to go to, or if it's something they can bring to them to help. So, and
You'll find IDs are one of the big things they need.
yep, and that we have the ability to do that for veterans and civilians pretty quickly, so that'll be extremely helpful for them, so.
Deborah helps with that a lot,
Yep,
and burst recovery.
yep,
Yeah.
And then like Kyle,
Deborah is a resource for getting IDs.
IDs, birth certificates, other paperwork, yeah, they've done that for years.
Oh, there's a good point that I didn't know, so.
and so once we get that accomplished with the group, we'll have the final product and then we'll present it to the advisory board for approval. So.
Very nice.
Some other things I want to mention is, I've continued to meet with nonprofits and organizations, with a strategic plan. And most recently, I did a presentation with, Advanced Health. And it went very well and had some interest, and the work that I'm working with Advanced Health is going very well. I've also gone out in the field to be in support of the HIV Alliance still, and with the ADAPT programs, and with Coos Health and Wellness and Very First Step. They are continually doing work support to help those that do want help, that are in need in the certain locations of Coos County. And recently also I was able to attend a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce. Sheriff Gabe Fabrizio did an excellent presentation and what's currently going on with the county and the crisis they're going through, but also the positives that are happening as well. So that's my report for today.
Right, thank you. Okay, next item is board comments. Drew, do you want to add?
Like just kind of a heads up to folks, I wrote an article comparing Executive Order 2302 to House Bill 5019 that I put out to a bunch of the larger papers in the state to see if I can get it published more up north so people can see what we're looking at. One of the comparisons was how much funding the state provided per individual and what services for. So in the executive order, the lowest any of those counties got was 32,000 per individual in Lane County. And in House Bill 5019, the lowest anybody got was in Lincoln County with less than $10,000 per person. So Coos came out fairly well in it, but they did not do nice things to the county lands. That's all I got.
Okay,
I could try and influence people.
about Commissioner Sweet.
I could talk a little bit about, this is not a brand new organization, but it's relatively new, and people that are looking for grants should be aware of it if you're not. There's a new foundation in town. This is in its third year of gifting. The name of the organization is Judith Ann Mogan Foundation. It is related to the Al Pierce Corporation. Mr. Pierce did very well. Had significant timber holdings and cash in the bank, and had one heir who decided the best way to memorialize the good work her father did was to take about $40 million that they had in the bank and put it into a foundation. And every year that's always invested. And the foundation is required to give away or spend each year 5%, a minimum of 5% of its assets. So part of that goes to administration. The rest of it goes to grants and programs. And I think their grant criteria would fit some of the needs that we have or that we're dealing with. And they have just a 1 year, one grant cycle a year. And they just decided who got this year's grant. Just $1 million, not all in one place, but quite a few places. 20 here, 30 there, a couple hundred here. It's not bad. And then their next grant cycle will start early next year with a letter of interest. And whoever's interested, it has to be a 501c3 type organization, or a public entity like a school district or a county or a city. No cities.
Yeah.
Just counties, I think.
Well, we applied for park grant.
We're changing that though.
Yeah,
No.
well, we're already awarded.
Well, that's the last you'll see of that.
Yeah.
Security.
I'm on their board. And the grant cycle starts with a letter of interest from whatever group is wishing to apply for money. You tell what you're going to do with the money and how much you need. And they'll respond quickly, whether that's consistent with the types of grants and the things for which they wish to grant money. And then if you meet that criteria, then the next project is to make your grant application. And that's reviewed, and you don't always get 100% of the money because normally they're overscribed about 5 to 1 with requests, but it still is a significant amount of money. It's a local foundation. They serve Curry County, Coos County and western Douglas County. Basically reads for it. And those are the areas in which Mr. Pierce had his businesses. Which he had a logging company, a lumber company, a lumber sales company. He had his own ship to deliver lumber from Coos Bay to Los Angeles. And significant, all that's kind of been shut down, but the timber holdings were liquidated to form this foundation. And the timber was sold to another local company. So that's all good. We're lucky to have it.
It's a pretty amazing way to utilize that money to support the community. It could have been very easily to just pocket and say, hey, let's go buy a really big house or property and.
Or 2 or 3 big
Yeah,
houses.
or all of them.
You would be amazed how Judith Ann, how modestly she has lived.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's a really interesting situation, a very generous thing for her to do. And it shows the value of local businesses, that care and.
Well, it shows that she values human over
Yeah,
some monetary value, so that's a big deal.
and that's the way her father lived, that's the way her mother lived, that's the way she lived. You wouldn't think she had a penny, well, maybe a penny, but not much more. Quite a lady. So anyway, it's just a resource that we have available for those of you who weren't aware of it.
Good.
That's,
Thank you.
I could talk about the county for a long time, but that would.
Okay, how about David Giles? Do you have anything you'd like to share?
I found it very interesting. I listened a lot to the I think David Milliron went to a national conference on houselessness, and he did forward some of the I think sessions that he had went to and participated. I found some of those very interesting. In particular, I have gotten a lot of feedback, probably because I work in mental health, about the impact of substance use and mental health conditions on the houseless population. And certainly, I think there is a very large presence of that's impacting people. But I was also really struck by the larger component related to housing, which is affordability and the financial aspect, and it really overshadows really fairly significantly issues around substance abuse or mental health. And I just thought it was I kind of was curious just about in our own communities, what is the level of financial reasons around houselessness. I think a significant number of our people are rent burdened. They I think 40 to 50% of our population pays more in their rent or mortgage payments than would be recommended. And I think until we really address our housing needs and trying to find affordable housing, that's another sort of leg of the stool that we need to really pay attention to. As much as we can help people find temporary shelters in temporary situations, we also need the long-term housing stock that's affordable for people to move in long-term. So I just kind of want to, like I said, it was just pointed out to me during this training and just re-emphasized to me some of the larger things that we also have to pay attention to, other than just our immediate people trying to get people off the streets.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. When the governor's team was down here and we had the opportunity several to meet with her, that was one of the things that we talked about. Like, there has been some funding recently for, addressing homelessness, but we're going to end up getting all these folks in temporary shelters and not have next stage because we don't have enough housing here. And yet we've all asked, our communities have asked for that funding support. North Bend had a huge project that would have added, I think, 160.
That was one of the problems with the funding as well, is the funding Coos County has received, they want to see 80% of it go to rehousing, but they denied 3 of our largest housing
Right.
projects.
Right.
So-
We've got a number of projects kind of sitting in the shadows waiting for funding, and we need those to start because that will take build out could take up to 5 years. And we can't ask people to live in pallet shelters for 5 years, so. Somehow coordinating that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, the way it's kind of been attacked so far, so. It's almost like, we're being encouraged to graduate more kids out of high school, but we only have funding to 6th grade, so how you find that gap, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, so, thank you, that's important for us to keep,
Nicole, could I,
keep there,
could
yeah.
I say a word in
Yeah.
that regard? And I know that. Where to start? There are reasons that it costs a lot of money to build a home. Some are valid, some are man-made, some are just market, some are man-made. And we tend to, rather than try to address some of the underlying causes of housing affordability and housing availability, we just say, okay, let's get some money and we'll subsidize that. We'll make it so that we'll put government money toward housing, government money towards rent, government money towards homelessness, so that people can afford. And we fail, I think, to recognize some of the underlying causes. And I think our new governor is doing a good job. Yet I find it contradictory that she would make, rightfully so, housing availability and housing affordability two of her first main priorities. But at the very same time that is going on at the state level, the Oregon Department of Forestry, who reports to the governor, and who also manages 600,000 acres of forest land in the western part of our state, is implementing a conservation plan that results in taking 55% of that forest land out of the harvest base. And yes, there are times when we're overcutting our lands, but those lands have been managed on a sustained yield basis with very strict environmental conditions. And yet, here we're taking that. So what does that, how does that relate to housing affordability and housing availability? Well, what do you make out of trees? You make lumber and plywood. That's the only sustainable way that we have for building homes. Otherwise, we're using concrete and steel, which put a lot of carbon dioxide into the air. Trees draw it out of the air. And once a tree's cut, that carbon dioxide is stored in the wood and in the home. I just came from Maine, and we think we have old homes around here. That were like my home, it was built in 1900. Back there, they have homes that were built in 1700. They're wooden homes. They have better, their land's a little harder than our land, it's not squishy as ours. Those homes look great. And so I know that wood doesn't rot away, but I'm straying a bit. But we're making our own problem. We don't need to take that land totally out of the harvest base. It could be managed so that we can have trees and we can have lumber and still have a good environment. We do that. We have environmental rules that say if you have wetlands, you can't do anything with that. And we have land south of Bandon's a great example, coastal plain, pretty flat, a few creeks running through it, but there are a lot of little divots out in that land, low-lying areas that in the winter fill with water. And the soil there is not terribly, it doesn't absorb water very well. It's a form of soil that holds the water. And so these little basins start to grow things like tussocks and other indicators of wetlands. And if you want to build on that, you can't unless you go through a big environmental permitting process and more than likely having to acquire other land and make a swamp out of it to replace this. And it's not, these swamps are, these little areas are not connected to any stream, so no fish are coming and going from them. Maybe they raise a few frogs and a few lizards, but we got lots of those. But it just makes it hard to build. And I know I had a conversation with the maintenance guy from our county. The county just took on the responsibility for building, permitting homes. Well, we have a maintenance department and they do all our maintenance. And they're very capable of replacing a toilet or hook a couple of wires together. But now that the building codes people are housed there, so you can't be doing that. You don't have a permit. You gotta hire a plumber to put that toilet in there. And those people cost a lot of money. And we're almost insulting them to ask them to put in a toilet because they're capable of doing many more things than that. And then we need them to be doing more things than that. Hard to get one to come do work you have to have done. Putting a toilet in, I think I might even be able to do that. Now, I can't plumb it to anything, but I could set it in place. And so we have all these rules in our state that I'm sure I hope they're unintended consequences, but they really impact the cost of housing. And, and then the other thought is that everyone's entitled to a new home. No, most people can't afford new homes. You work your way up, and as you do that, you leave behind you a string of homes that are the starter homes. I think all of us did that. We started out in a very modest home, and then after a while things got better and you got a nicer new home, and then the kids left for college and you got something better yet after they got out of college. But we have these man-made rules that really drive up the cost of housing. I was in Texas. Maybe you've heard the story. We went out to this little town to visit it. It was a lovely little town. Couldn't find a place to stay. So I finally tracked down a B&B out in the brush. I went out there and it was a hole in the brush, a couple, 3 acres. There was a home and 2 little cabins. And we rented one of the cabins, and so I was checking out a couple of days later. The old German guy owned it, and I said, "How's this working for you?" He said, "Great, I'm gonna build 3 more cabins this summer." I said, "What kind of a planning process do you have to go through to do that?" Looked at me and I thought, well, maybe we had a language issue. And I said, "Well, do you have to get a permit to build these cabins?" And they were lovely. Oh no, you don't understand. 7 words. This is my property. I own it. I don't have to get a permit. It's not the state's business. And yet we insist on having inspections. Our maintenance crews doing some work in one of our buildings. And they had inspection by the new building inspector. You guys should get him back. He said, the gap, that 2x4 is cut a 1/16 of an inch too short. You're supposed to be within 1/16 of an inch of the prescribed length or whatever it is, and you are 1/8 of an inch. You can't do that. We don't need that level of inspection.
Commissioner,
And
I'm
that
gonna.
all costs money, and it's all the state's fault, Cord. God, I'm so glad you spoke up, so I can put the blame where it belongs.
I gotta run. I got a big timber track I'm gonna go purchase here. No, kidding.
Hey, you cut all the
I
timber
couldn't
down on the trees into our ranch.
Okay, I couldn't have said it better myself. Honestly, I wish I'd have recorded that because, we had House Bill 3414 that the governor was strongly behind. The Republicans passed it by 6 votes, got to the Senate, lost by 1 vote on the other side. And the governor was very unhappy because so much work went into that. The point is, she was trying to adjust land use requirements. And, the Thousand Friends got involved. And, my point is 1,000 Friends, they all have a roof over their heads. You got families out living out of their car, and the extent has hurt our employment. Everything that you communicated, Commissioner. Yeah, we're just going to keep pushing back. We're not against planning, but we certainly understand that sometimes people have a little bit of a priority over the various critters. So stay tuned. We'll keep working on that. I'm gonna run, but very much appreciate the invite, and I hope I didn't butt in there. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bart.
Hey, record that next time, please. That was awesome.
Oh,
It is recorded.
You're lucky.
How about Stephanie? Did you have anything you'd like to add?
I was just gonna add that it is really kind of special how this group, you know, what its function is and how bringing all these people to the table, including our legislators that were here for this meeting that need to hear that this problem has to be attacked from many different angles. And the fact that we had this pilot that allowed this group to be formed and bring all these folks to the table, I think this is the way to actually move the needle on how we address this crisis we are in. And it can only be done if everybody works at it from every different angle, including our federal legislators. So I'm glad to hear that there is a push on the state side, because we can only do so much. And it's wonderful to have mandates come down and these feel-good things come down from people telling us what to do. It's another thing if they can't put funding behind it and they can't change the other issues that are creating some of the problem as well. We just can't get people to develop if it costs too much. And we're seeing people leaving the state, developers leaving the state because of some of the regulatory things. So it's important that our legislators hear that.
Thank you. I think, unless there's any other comments, that's the last thing on our agenda for today. So I would adjourn the meeting.
We'll meet next Wednesday.
And we will meet next Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
I'm on Monday.
Thank you all.
You too. Thank you.